So it's currently 3:45 a.m., which means it has been 41 hours and 15 minutes, I believe, since the Lumity kiss, and I'm still messed up. Between Friday at 11 p.m. when I woke up until today at 3 p.m. when I finally fell asleep, I only got 3 hours of sleep during the duration of an entire day and a half. And for my depressed ass, that's saying something. I have been too anxious to sleep, and there have been a lot of thoughts in my head. I feel like I need to just address them, because I'm realizing more and more things the longer time goes on, and I feel like if I don't talk about them, I'm gonna explode. And I wrote them all down, because I'm prepared for once. I literally have 4 pages of notes. And I actually did some research. I did more research for these notes than I did during any college course I ever did. Mostly because I actually care about this shit, but that's besides the point. So, we all start from the beginning. As you know, my thought process is very confuddled, so these notes are all over the place. I tried to make sense of my thoughts, but it's like a war zone up here. So, if it doesn't make sense, I'm sorry, I tried. I tried to imagine how a sane person would view this. I wouldn't know what that's like, but... Okay, so I labeled these notes the significance of episode 5. Mostly because I didn't feel like writing the whole title of the freaking episode. Some of these I covered in my reaction video, but a lot of these other things I realized while I was either editing the reaction or editing the music video I made last night instead of sleeping for 6 hours. It took me 6 hours to edit a 45-second video. Anyways, that's besides the point. When I was going through, picking clips and audio to include in that's when I started, realizing a lot, and the more, I realized, the more I knew I missed in the original thing, and people have also been pointing things out to me in the comments, so I am going to try to address as much as I can and have it make sense. This is probably going to be a long video. You know me. I'm going to stop clicking this pen now. One of the first things I realized was that Amity's willing to break the rules for Luz when she lets her into the stacks. I didn't really think of the significance at first after watching the episode a bunch of times, because that's my new favorite episode. At least the Lumity parts. I skip over the Gus parts, I'm not gonna lie, I'm sorry Gus, but you're not the reason I'm here. When I thought about it, I'm like, Amity loves her job. She loves reading to the kids, she loves being around the kids. The library is her safe place. She has her room there. She's not only risking losing her job, but she's also risking losing her little hideout that she has. Because we found out that Malthus, that's his name, the guy that gave her the job, also gave her the hideout that she has.
Malthus is actually the one who gave me my job and my own study room.
Which for a while was confusing me, because I'm like, did she build it? What the heck is going on? How does she have this room in this library? But that makes sense, especially if she spent so much time. She was probably, friends with the librarian in a type of way. That's besides the point. We saw, at the beginning of the series, especially in the episodes of I Was a Teenage Abomination, all the way up to, I'd say, the knee, that Amity is pretty much a stickler for rules. She's very by the book. She tries to listen to people of higher authority or her elders. At this point in this episode, we realize just how much Amity has changed and how much she cares for Luz, because she is willing to go out of her way and risk losing her job and her hideout, her safe place, in order to help Luz find a way home, which made me very emotional when I first realized that. Another thing I realized, okay, they're both blushing at each other multiple times in this episode. Do either of them notice? This is what I'm wondering. Because Luz's is more subtle, but Amity's is fire engine red, her whole face, right? But similar to that, when Amity gets mad, her face turns red. I don't know if Luz is thinking that by certain things she says or does, she's upsetting Amity, when in reality Amity's just blushing. I don't know if that's making it more complicated for Luz to try and figure out what's going on. At least she knows what's going on by the end of the episode, obviously. When they're in the library, she probably doesn't realize that she's not turning red out of frustration and anger. She's turning red because of her crush on her. But another thing I was realizing was, does Amity notice? Luz's blush. Like, they're making, like, direct eye contact, right? The part of your body that, like, flushes is, like, right under your eyes to, like, down here. So, like, you would notice if that started changing color, right? Because I know Luz's is more subtle, but I don't know. Or maybe Amity thinks Luz is embarrassed? I don't know. Because people also blush when they're embarrassed, so... I don't know. As I was going through the video, I realized just all the consequences that Amity is realizing she has to face if her and Luz get caught. Like I said earlier, she would risk losing her job, one that she loves, reading to the kids. She would lose her secret hideout where she gets away from her parents and her siblings. And Amity said they'd probably get fed to the bookworms, which, I mean, like Luz said, probably is terrifying on the Boiling Isles. I doubt unless it's a bunch of fucking cannibal nerds, that would be terrifying. That would be terrifying. Luz was pretty much saying, like, I know it's probably terrifying in the Boiling Isles. In the human realm, we just call nerds that. And Amity just, like, her eyes, like, she gets these extra highlights. Like, she adores when Luz talks about the human realm, and it's so cute. Amity was saying, like, the human realm sounds weird or whatever, but, like, she didn't say it in a bad way. Luz essentially asked her out on a date, like, maybe it wouldn't be so weird if I showed you around sometime. I feel like she also wants Amity to understand her world and where she comes from, and maybe she thinks that somehow it'll help Amity understand Luz better, because usually learning someone's background or, like, the environment they grew up in helps you understand a person better, especially about certain ways they act. And, like, the look on Amity's face, she's just shook, like, did that just happen? Did my crush just ask me out? Luz essentially suggests that they turn back because she doesn't want them to get in trouble and that for them to get fed to the bookworms or Amity lose her job or her secret hideout. And here we are again with either Luz or Amity risking an essential part of their life or an important part of their life to help each other. Because Luz at this point is essentially saying, like, okay, I care more about Amity's well-being and her keeping her job and having her safe space and having a good relationship with her librarian friend. I'm more concerned about that than finding a way home. She's willing to turn around and risk finding answers to get her home in order to prevent Amity from getting in trouble. Which is really sweet. Because, like, think about that. Like, if you were in that position, like, I don't think I would be able to do that. Like, she's just a sweetheart. Like, I can't, and I won't. When Amity's essentially like, nah, we going on that date. Fuck this job. I didn't really realize it when I was watching the first couple times that she literally was, like, on a mission to go on a date with Luz after that. It started making sense to me. The librarian says he's disappointed in Amity. And we know from previous episodes and her character that she doesn't like disappointing those she's supposed to respect. Then again, being her elders. Whether it's her parents, strangers, mentors, etc. So that was like a trigger of sorts for Amity, because while she's improving, I feel like hearing those words like, I'm disappointed in you, triggered the response and the emotional almost breakdown that she has after the doors are closed. This is another thing I dove more into depth about when I was editing the music video. The quote, everything changed since you came here. At first I was like, maybe she's saying like her feelings, blah, blah, blah. Or maybe she's saying, like, the Boiling Isles have changed because Luz has made, like, such a difference. Upon further inspection, I was like, could Amity be talking about herself? Before Luz came to the Boiling Isles, she was so concerned with status and her image and her grades and essentially being, like, stuck up and, like, she thought she was better than people academic-wise. She was essentially, like, willing to put those not as capable around her down, which again I think had a lot to do with the abuse she was suffering. A lot of the time, especially like when you're a teenager and things are already complicated, if you're suffering like abuse at home, whether it's physical, mental, verbal, etc., you take that out on other people sometimes without really meaning to, because you don't want to be like that person, but it somehow sometimes works its way, especially in as a teenager when you're already so, like, self-conscious and emotional and just confused about everything. I don't know if that made any sense. And she also used to be embarrassed about her friendship with Willow and how they used to be friends. And she used to just go along with whatever her parents wanted. The green hair, the good grades, etc. But after Luz came to the Boiling Isles, Amity doesn't care. She doesn't let her name define her. She no longer cares about status. She doesn't care about the people that her parents want her to be around. She wants to be around people that genuinely like her for herself and not because she's rich or she comes from a prominent family. She just wants people that she chooses to be around, that she's not forced to be around. And we also see in Escaping Expulsion, she's not letting her grades define her anymore either, because Odalia said, like, her grades were slipping, but slipping for Amity, what does that mean? Maybe she doesn't study for an extra hour? Like, she probably gets, like, what, an A- instead of an A. That's still really good. I really don't think Amity cares. She just doesn't want to deal with her mother, and that's why in that episode they came to the agreement that she would help show off the abominations. But yeah, like, she cares less about her grades now. She's like, okay, well, grades aren't everything. They don't define me. Like, I define myself, what I do, how I act. And I felt like if Odalia and Alador didn't get Luz, Gus, and Willow expelled, she wouldn't have cared. She wouldn't have cared about letting her grades slip or whatever, but her parents essentially, they basically punished her like, you're gonna do bad in school, okay, well, your friends can't go to school anymore, and now you can't associate with them anymore. I don't know if any of this is making sense. I'm really trying, guys. I'm sorry. I don't know why I thought this would be a good idea. And she's no longer embarrassed of the people that she's actually friends with. She doesn't care who sees her hanging out with Gus, Willow, and Luz. She's just happy to be around them. Again, that's just how I think. One of the things Amity could mean when she say, everything changed when you came to the Boiling Isles. But the second part of that quote, being around you, it makes me do stupid things and I wish it didn't. This is where I feel the librarian saying he was disappointed in her triggered the emotional response where she started lashing out, saying, like, it makes me do things I wish I didn't do.
Being around you, it makes me do stupid things and I wish it didn't.
Like, being around you because she's so infatuated with Luz. She wants to do anything she can to help Luz when she has a problem or just be around her, which is typical crush stuff. And she's essentially making decisions she wouldn't make around anyone else. It's just Luz that triggers that response of, I'll do it. I'll do whatever you want. I'll help you, whatever you need. Because she knows Luz is that person too. And we see the tears in their eyes, and they're both genuinely upset. And I feel like Amity's are, one, from losing her job, and two, like, these confusing feelings she's having. When Luz basically says, like, listen, I do stupid stuff around you too, Amity.
I do stupid things around you too, Amity.
Like, essentially saying she can relate. And while she's saying this, we see the highlights in the eyes again. I'll get to the significance about the highlights later on when I start talking about the significance of hair color, body language, all that. And back to Luz saying she does stupid things around Amity, she also does things that are not in her best interest when she's around Amity. She does things that are in the best interest of Amity or whoever's around Amity. Basically, she feels like she needs to be the hero. I'll get into this more depth later on, but that shows itself literally right after she says that, when she goes back into the building to talk to Malthus to get Amity her job back. She literally does stupid shit right after she says that, because she's literally risking her life at that point. And after Luz says that, Amity looks like so, like, shocked and taken aback. Like, she can't believe what she just heard. And at first I thought the shock was, like, maybe the realization of, oh, maybe Luz feels the same way, or maybe she's misinterpreting what I say. But then when I went back, and the quote, I think I need to go home.
I think I need to go home.
At first, I thought she didn't know what to do, so she had to leave. But as I was thinking of notes to write down for this video, I said possibly regrets saying that to Luz and needs time alone. So she probably lets it sink in, like, I'm taking out my frustration, which was essentially her own choice to help Luz, because Luz gave her the option to turn back. And Amity said, like, no, we're finding that diary. And I think at this point, like, it's clicking that it's not Luz's fault. And that she's just upset and she doesn't want to take it out on Luz. And that's why she says she needs to go home, because she just needs space. Another thing could be, again, if she thinks Luz is returning her feelings, she could come to, like, the thought of, like, no, I'm just overthinking this, and, like, the disappointment is making her emotional and she has to leave because she can't be around Luz because it just reminds her of what she thinks she can never have. Now, I noticed once Amity leaves and Luz, like, puts her hands in her hair, I noticed it was similar to Grom. But one, I didn't realize the translation of what she meant in Spanish because I took Spanish for 5 years. All I know is donde está la biblioteca, and no one needs to know where the fucking library is these days. Maybe in the Boiling Isles because people actually go to the library, but in the human realm, we got the fucking internet. Anyways, so I didn't understand what Luz was saying at that point.
Nada funcionará a menos que lo haga funcionar.
I'll put the comment on the screen of the person that actually translated it. Basically, the quote says, "Nothing works unless I make it work." I feel like that's her realizing, like, I need to make things right. I need to help Amity get her job back, and that's when she decides to go back in and talk to Malthus about getting Amity her job back. Now, back to the Grom hair. I realized later the significance of this was probably the whole purpose of Luz taking Amity's place at Grom was to be her fearless champion and to help Amity out of a very, like, uncomfortable situation. Whereas here, she's basically doing the same thing, which could be like the significance of the Grom hairstyle. And she's also like being her fearless champion by going out of her way to try and help Amity and essentially give her a way out of a mess that she doesn't have a way out of on her own. So now we're at the point where we cut back to Amity in her room with Edric and Emra. And she's talking about how, like, she's confused about her feelings and how she doesn't understand the things that she's experiencing. She's saying things like, I'm feeling things and thinking things I've never experienced before. And based off of that, we can infer she's talking about love, especially with the person she used to be. She probably prioritized school and her parents' like wishes of who she hangs out with, who she associates with and who she doesn't. She probably prioritized that over making like personal relationships. Like she couldn't even make her own friendships, never mind relationships. So all this is new to her. It's leaving her very confused. But at the same time, she might also talk about being braver because she cares about less things now than she originally did. She's not as anxious about her schoolwork. She's not as afraid of saying no to her parents, way to help others now, like she did in the Grudge Me match when she was helping Willow not get picked on anymore by standing in for them when Gus wasn't able to play and essentially going against Basha. She also, like, I feel like now she feels like she can be herself because she has this genuine relationship and friendship with people that actually, like, accept her for her. She already has a common interest with Luz being Azora. So I feel like she would have had to hide that around Basha and Skara and Kat and Amelia, that whole group. And now she realizes Luz, Gus, and Willow don't care if I appear nerdy or that I have slightly different interests than them, and that she realizes like she's in a place of acceptance now and she can kind of accept herself for the way she is. And she's also like still getting used to being accepted for that. Again, Amity was like confused, like saying like, I've never felt this stuff before. And Emra was saying like, is that so bad? Because you were never happy before. So even Emra, who seemingly doesn't spend that much time around Luz and Amity, can tell that Amity is a lot happier with Luz in her life than before Luz came to the Boiling Isles. So at this point, I think Emra is essentially encouraging Amity, like, no, this is a good thing. You're actually happy now. Your life is better. You're not as miserable all the time. Like, it's not a bad thing that she came here, and these feelings, they can't be all bad. So now we get to the part where Luz is knocking on their door, and she literally apologizes immediately. The moment Amity opens the door, she's not even looking at Amity. She is just holding Amity's work ID out, saying like, I'm so sorry, I understand if you never want to see me again. And she's taken aback by the change in Amity's hair, which again, I'll get to the significance of all that later on. Amity says,
Mom always liked it green. I thought I could use a change.
Again, she's deciding to do things she wants and not feel like she has to follow every little thing her parents want from her, especially when it comes to something as trivial as hair color and style. Especially when she's 14. I don't remember if someone pointed this out to me in the comments or if it's something I saw on Instagram. So credit goes out to whoever realized this, because I definitely did not. The way Amity is holding her ID card is very similar to the way she was holding her Grom note when she was contemplating giving it to Luz before the whole Grom battle happened. And what people were pointing out is that this probably made her think of her fear of being rejected by Luz And now that they've had all these experiences together, maybe she feels more confident, like, okay, maybe she does feel the same way, or maybe I have a chance, maybe she won't reject me. And that's like where the boldness comes from all of a sudden when, you know, the other events unfold. I can't get over this line.
Don't worry. You always have a way of sneaking into people's hearts.
Sneaking into people's hearts? Like, you all snuck into my damn heart, damn. Jesus, that shit's like Fort Knox, and you all just barged your way in making me feel shit. Oh my god. But like, oh, that quote gets me every time. That and the, I do stupid things too, that's the new I Can't Breathe from the fucking Painted Green Covered in Red. You guys need to go read that fanfiction. It's fantastic. But you will never be able to hear the words I can't breathe without wanting to cry ever again. Or I don't want that. That's another one. I can't get over how pure that cheek kiss was. Like, her eyes were closed. She, like, it was so genuine. It was, like, very heat of the moment. Like, I don't really think Amity thought of it too much. I feel like she kind of got, like, caught up in her hopes that, like, maybe she feels the same. Like, I should just go for it. As it's happening, like, Luz's eyes, like, get real narrow. Like, she's, like, shocked. Like, is this really happening? She's got, like, this, like, almost like a look of astonishment on her face. Like, I can't believe that just happened, or did that happen? Is this a dream? Is this a daydream? Like, what the hell's going on? But then when we see the close-up on Luz's face, and her eyes just get bigger, and again, the second highlight comes in. It's not just the normal one highlight. There is a second highlight where her eyes are literally glittering in wonder and happiness and love, and it's, oh, I love it so much. I'll get into it later on, but when you look at someone you love, your eyes widen, your pupils dilate, which is what freaking happens here. So at this point, Luz isn't even crushing on Amity anymore. She is in love with Amity now, which is great. But like, she's also not blushing. And I feel like Amity takes that as a sign of, okay, she doesn't reciprocate my feelings. That's when everything kind of comes crashing down on her, like, oh my god, I just did that, like, why did I do that? And that's when she has to, like, bail because she can't deal with rejection because she's still afraid of that, because it was her greatest fear. While it might not be her greatest fear anymore, it's probably still something she's at least a little bit afraid of. At the very end, we see Luz, like, collapse on the ground. I feel like she's just so, like, out of it. She is in her own little world trying to process what just happened. Some people, when they get shocked or they feel like extreme emotion, their legs just buckle. So maybe that's what happened. All right, so I'm going to get into some quote importance first, and then I'm going to go on to other stuff. The quote that I'm talking about the importance of is when Amity says, like, don't worry, you always have a way of sneaking into people's hearts. By that, I think she's saying how, like, Luz managed to get past Amity's, like, rough exterior, especially, like, when they first met and re-met at the convention, and work her way in Amity's heart, regardless of Amity trying to push her away multiple times. Going off, just in my head, the convention, when Luz tried coming up to Amity and, like, introducing herself, like, just to say hi, and she was like, I'm not an abomination, like, my name's Luz. Like, she tried, like, starting off on a friendly note, despite Amity trying to have her dissected by Principal Bump. And then at the end of the episode, she goes out of her way to comfort Amity when she sees how embarrassed and hurt she is by Lilith's betrayal of her.
Amity, I'm sorry. Seriously, just leave me alone.
And looking like a fool in front of everyone. And the next episode we see this in is the library episode, where again she tries befriending Amity. Literally starts by saying, like, "Bad as you seem." She said something like,
Looks like this sour lemon drop has a hidden sweet center.
but she also offers, she's like, I can help read to the kids, like, I can help you, like, we can do this together. She's trying to find a way to get Amity to open up to her, or to, like, bond with her, or to spend more time with Amity. But Amity refuses, because she's like, listen, anytime you're around me, I get in trouble, or I look like a fool, like, I don't want anything to do with you. And then once Luz meets her siblings, she's like, if I befriend Edric and Emera, maybe then I can befriend Amity. She goes out of her way to befriend Edric and Emera. And even though she's friends with Edric and Emera now, she still stops them from reading Amity's diary and posting around the school, even though she has no reason to really object to it based off of the way Amity has treated her so far, but just the person that Luz is, and just being like a decent human being, her standing up for Amity, who she doesn't even know is there, saying like, listen, it's wrong, these are private things, like, we should just let it be, we should put it back, and we should leave. And then later on, when like Luz is trying to apologize, saying like, listen, I'm sorry, and Odabin snatches Amity and like drags her away, Luz could have left, but she goes back and she saves Amity from Odabin and saves her from being sewn into the book. And later that episode, Amity saves Luz. We're already seeing a shift in dynamic, whereas Luz isn't necessarily putting in all the effort, like Amity's now putting in some effort. Maybe that was just out of she was trying to save Luz because Luz saved her. I don't know. There's many other ways you could look at that, I believe. Unless we get like a definite answer later on in the series. I don't know if we'll have a confirmed answer unless like Dana Terrence herself says it. And now they're closer, right? And then we get to the knee where tensions start to rise once Luz uses Amity's wand and ultimately gets Edric, Emra, and Ida captured. Again, Amity kind of pushing Luz away, wanting to deal with it on her own, putting the barrier up. While I believe it was to protect Luz, I feel like also like she was concerned of what might happen if Luz came along. Her mission would fail or she wouldn't be able to save Edric, Emra, and Ida. But Luz helps. And she is the reason it succeeds. By the end, they have another thing in common with the agreeing to the Azora Book Club, where they went from being pretty much acquaintances to friends because they're now making plans to, like, hang out and do things together. And then there's a time where Amity set Willow's memories on fire. Luz goes out of her way to help. Obviously, she wants to help Willow, but she also wants to help Amity as well. It bothers her that Amity and Willow have this seemingly weird past where neither of them talk about it. They're both uncomfortable discussing it. By making the decision to take Amity with her, she is essentially the reason they were able to work everything out in Willow's mind, and why her and Willow are friends again, in later episodes anyway. And she also helps Amity remember, like, all the good times she had with Willow, where I feel like some of those things she might have forgotten about, because she was a kid when these were happening. I feel like things her parents said, or like maybe made her think certain things, like, or some things happened that never happened. Just by remembering those, she realized like how happy she was with Willow and how much she misses her, which again, like, wouldn't have been possible without Luz. And then right after that, we go to Grom. And she immediately helps by offering to take Amity's place, because she literally said, like, listen, I can't get out of this business unless I find someone to find a replacement, but no one's gonna want to switch spots with me because no one wants to face their biggest fears. And Luz, without even thinking, is like, I'll do it.
Unless I can find a replacement, who'd want to switch with me? I would. What?
And Amity's like, what the hell? Like, what? Again, to the Grom reference I made earlier, like, she agrees to be, like, her fearless champion and face Grom in place of Amity. She later helps Amity when they both dance and fight Grom together. Even though by this point, Luz has essentially made her way into Amity's heart, despite all the things that have happened. Like, she goes on to, like, remain in Amity's heart by doing the following. She stands up for Willow when Amity's unable to, in the sense of, like, actually stopping it, where she tries to dissuade Basha by saying, I grew up, when are you gonna grow up? Get over it. She gives Amity a reason to leave Basha, just by exposing, like, how much of a terrible person Basha is, by the fact that she was literally ready to kill Luz for her own pride in her own sense of ego, when Luz was just saying, like, we forfeit, I'll take on all of Willow's punishments. Basha just takes that opportunity to try and kill Luz. Once Amity gets hurt, like, Luz goes out of her way to help Amity. Since Amity can't really stand, she literally scoops her up in her arms, and I'm assuming carries her away to the healers or whatever. And then the last one I can think before this current episode was in escaping Expulsion. She gave Amity a reason to stand up to her parents. She had never really had anything she cared about enough to make her go against her parents' wishes until Luz. Once she saw that Luz's life was in danger, she stopped caring automatically about what her parents would think, what they would say, what her repercussions would be. She was just so focused on saving Luz that she was able to stand up to her parents and say, like, no, I'm gonna rip this thing apart unless you let them back into Hexside and, like, let my friends go. And it also gives her a reason to start doing what she wants, because she realizes, like, my parents can't control me. I'm powerful, I have the power, I can stand up for myself when I need to. Now, the other quote I'm going to be talking about is the stupid things that they were both referring to during that confession scene. A few of the stupid things I was able to think of before this episode was in Grudge B, how she managed to get herself hurt saving Luz, and in escaping Expulsion, how she went up against her parents, and that probably led to an even worse home life for her, because it wasn't great to begin with. And in this episode, she helped Luz break the rules by giving her direct access to a place that was forbidden from everyone except the main librarian, she essentially like encourages her to keep going until they find the journal, even though Luz already gave her the opportunity to turn around. I feel like Amity really at this point is thinking like that was a really stupid thing of her to do, because she should have just taken Luz up on the offer and they could have left and not been caught. In terms of stupid things that Luz has done, just in these past episodes alone, she acts like a flustered mess, which is I still love. But before this, taking on Grom, she didn't really think it through. She was just like, I'll do it. She didn't really take into consideration like her true fears or like how it could backfire, or she was just so caught up in trying to help Amity and prove herself that she could do it, that it was a pretty stupid decision, which could have led very differently if Amity had not stepped in, or Ida. And then, literally right after she says this, she goes back into the library to talk to the upset librarian, trying to get him to hire Amity again. And we learn that she literally had to take on a paper dragon, whatever the hell that is. Apparently that's a real thing. I remember someone told me it was an actual thing, but I can't find it. All I'm seeing is origami pictures, and that is not what I'm looking for. Unless she fought like a giant origami dragon, which would be kind of epic. But besides the point, again, doing something stupid by completely disregarding her own safety and her own life to make things right for Amity. Alright, so now I want to get into the significance of the hair color. First of all, apparently some people think it's pink, some people think it's purple. I don't know. Now I'm calling it pinkish purple. We can all be right. I looked up the meaning for pink, right? But I didn't originally see it as purple. So I actually looked up the meaning of different colors. And for purple, I'm gonna read off this whole thing, and it might take a while because I'm dyslexic as fuck. Purple is associated with spirituality, the sacred, high self, passion, third eye fulfillment, and vitality. Purple helps align oneself with the whole universe. Different shades, tints, and hues of purple have different meanings. Light purple hues represents femininity and delicacy, as well as romantic and nostalgic feelings. Dark purple evokes feelings of gloom, sadness, and frustration. Bright purple hues suggest riches and royalty, which I'm guessing by bright purple they're meaning like bright in saturation, not necessarily in value. That's art terminology. I'm sorry if you guys don't understand that. Light purple or lavender is a feminine, graceful, elegant color that has long been associated with refined, wealthy women. While the color purple represents royalty, lavender represents beauty and femininity. Lavender is considered to be the grown-up pink. Its lighter lavender shades have a sacred place in nature with lavender, orchid, lilac, and violet flowers, considered delicate and precious. The color of lavender suggests uniqueness and specialness without the deep mystery of the color purple. And the color purple itself is associated with bravery. So I believe if Amity had if it was like a conscious choice, like she had a reason she chose purple, I feel like the color has a lot of significance because she, as herself, is changing. She's more bold, she's more self-aware, she's more accepting of herself. It also symbolizes love, which duh. But there's a lot about the color pinkish purple that defines who Amity is now. Back to the color purple being bold, I think Luz has a lot to do with that, because Luz is a very bold person. She just stands up for others. She's more concerned about others' well-being than her own. She's very enthusiastic and will fight for the things she believes in and believes are right. We see in season 2, Amity's doing that. She just by, standing up to her parents, she is becoming more bold, and therefore the color purple is making more sense because she herself is becoming bold. And then the whole hairstyle, I already went into detail about it in the reaction, so I'll just briefly go over it now. But now that she wears her hair down, she's essentially, again, with a self-acceptance, she's letting herself, she's calming down, she's letting herself be herself without worrying about how other people around her will perceive her. And now that we got over the hair significance, we're going to get into the eye significance. What I was telling you earlier with the extra highlights. Eyes dilate if a person is frightened or excited due to adrenaline. Studies have shown when you look at a person you love, they dilate. That's all the explanation you need. They love each other, so when they look at each other, their eyes dilate. And that is also the extra highlight. In cartoons, it's that's how people tend to show amazement and love and just admiration. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. So that was 1 hour and 13 minutes. Oh my god. I think I worked most of that out I don't know. I probably didn't make much sense. I tried. Like I said, I tried. There's a lot that goes on up here. It's chaos. Let me know what you guys thought. Do you guys think any of this is right? Do you think it's wrong? Like, what do you guys think? Did I miss anything of importance? Oh, another thing. So there was a sticker on the back of Amity's ID card. And a lot of people are saying it's a lesbian flag. I mean, I can see it. Like, I didn't notice that at first, but when I was going over, like, the episode for notes, I realized it as it was, like, floating off, like, her lanyard. But yeah, there's a star, and it seems to have at least 3 of those colors are the lesbian flag colors. Possibly 4. I'm still iffy if the yellow is, because maybe it's just a light orange. Yeah, I'm pretty sure those were the things I picked up on. I probably forgot some, because I've just been thinking about this nonstop for the past 40 hours, and it has not left my mind, and it's insane. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. If you guys made it to the end, bravo. I don't think I would have had the patience to sit through all this. So thank you guys for those of you that sticked around. Alright, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.